Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I know it's been a long month of hiatus from the Swooshu podcast, but we
Yes,
back. We
we are
back after a
back.
long month break, and we got a lot to talk about. Okay, so we got Ernest here, we got myself, Eric, Armani, and a special guest, JG.
The
So we're going
Chicago
to
win.
talk about. So we're gonna talk today, this episode, about the Bulls 11-18 start, their struggles, and you got news coming out from Shams about the riffraff in the locker room. Um, Knicks 7-game win streak currently right now. They're playing the Warriors at home and they're up 60-48 second quarter. Is this streak sustainable or not? We're gonna answer that. The Warriors road struggles. They are currently their their fifth game of the 6-game East Coast road trip. They won their previous game at Toronto. They're down 12 against the Knicks. They finish up tomorrow against the Brooklyn Nets. So it's going to be a rough one, along with Steph Curry being out. So they got a lot of work to do. Also,
Speaking of injuries,
Lakers, another
Jesus
another
Christ.
another injury for Anthony Davis. Unfortunately, was a right foot injury.
We don't know.
So,
Okay,
we don't know. We
it's the
don't know
foot.
what to
We
do.
just know it's the foot.
So this is his second. Well, it's his second injury this season.
I'll
So
cut off my foot and gave it to AD.
I ain't doing all that. But
He needs something, vibranium, something. God damn it.
but he was playing well up to that foot injury. So they
MVP.
got to again depend on LeBron, and he was out last game against the Suns last night, and they got trounced by the Suns. And we don't talk about the Suns later on this episode because there's new
Yes, that.
ownership.
New ownership. They
New
just sold for
ownership.
$4
They
billion.
just sold
Like
$4
that's
billion
pretty.
dollars. So yeah, and we gotta watch out for that because the CBA negotiations they're going ongoing. They extended to February along with the trade deadline. So what? So those little nitbits you gotta look out for that because stuff is going to change in the NBA in the collective bargaining agreement. So
Oh, for
we're gonna
sure.
get to all that. And so since our guest JG is here,
But before we get to JG,
mm-hmm.
Eric, get out your victory lap. Let's just kick it off with the New York Knicks. Let's just kick it off with the Knicks because I want to get into this stuff because I was on the record that I truly didn't believe in the Knicks. That's kind of been like my sentiment, ever since I questioned the front office of what direction they were going. The fans were clamoring for the young guys to play, but then like you have the front office who wants the young guys to play, but they're signing these vets. Then Tom Thibodeau, in the beginning, weren't playing the young guys, and a lot of fans were at riffs with Tom Thibodeau and how his rotations were set. And I just thought there was no direction, and I think the Knicks were going nowhere fast. Now, as we get to December 20th, 2022, the Knicks have the longest standing winning streak currently right now in the NBA. Seven games straight. Looks like they're gonna win 8.
Man, who would have thought?
So Jalen Brunson, all the chatter in the offseason about the overpay.
I know Eric is loving this right now.
For sure. It's paying off the amount of riffraff Eric took in the offseason, and the vitriol I don't expect him, and the constant belittling of the front office of the New York Knicks. I have to now take my lumps as my GM Rob Pelinka sits on his ass and does nothing to improve our team. Now, to the Knicks, is this sustainable, Eric?
I think it is. I think because but I think there's a reason why I say it because now him shorting, but Tibbs shortening the rotation and putting in the young guys that we've been screaming about, like the McBrides, the Quentin Grimes, Jurgensen's getting minutes. He had to cut down the rotation and bench Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, um, Cam Reddish, who was in the
Can I ask
rotation.
you a
Now he's
question?
back out.
Can I ask you a
And now
question
we
about
just
Cam Reddish?
and early we just seen that Quentin Grimes, he's down on the floor, which is he got hurt again. So
I got a question real quick about Cam Reddish. Like,
mhm.
what's the things that you're like? What's the issue? Because it's like at one point I'm like, okay, maybe he's young, coming from Atlanta, wasn't a lot of minutes for him. A lot of guys played the same position as him in Atlanta. I thought going to New York he'll thrive because it'll be more opportunity for him. Thibodeau gives him this runway of starting and getting all these minutes, and then now, like when he got traded, you guys gave up a pick for him. You guys traded him for him. He didn't get minutes to start while the fans were clamoring for him to get minutes. He gets minutes. He actually performs well, and then gets pulled again to the bench. I'm just confused. Then we hear like the trade chatter, the trade chatter about Cam Reddish wanting to get out of New York because he's not getting opportunities. I'm just confused. I think the kid is legit, but is there any personal problems, or I don't know. It's weird that a young guy like that with that much upside gets moved, or gets moved once, and then all of a sudden his next destination he's getting talked about being moved again.
So going to the season, going to training camp, Tibbs was out front saying that the 2 guard position, the shooting guard was in play. So it was Fournier, Quentin Grimes, and Cam Reddish. We all knew, well, us the fan base, we kind of knew that Quentin Grimes was going to get that starting shooting guard rotation spot, but he had a foot injury, so he decided to play Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier in the rotation as basically like holding spots for when Quentin Grimes gets back healthy. So you had Cam Reddish. He plays, he plays a couple games. He was up and down. He had his good moments. He had his not so good moments. Even though he's a big 6'8" guard with a 7-foot wingspan, there was rumblings about him, like his motor. He's not bringing it out every night in games. His defensive effort was not there sometimes, and like during before the win streak and early in the season, their Knicks defense was not good at all. It was like they were like bottom 5 in defense and defensive rating, and which was not good. And on top of that, they were giving up 100. They gave up 140 to the Thunder at home. They had that big game. They had that big league against Dallas, and they blew it. They're up 15, and they lost by 20. And that kind of like signaled for Tom, like, okay, changes need to be made, especially on defense, because that's his calling card, defense. And there was rumblings about at the time they were 10-13, and if they had lost a couple more games after that, changes would have been made, like major changes. So with Cam, it's like at first when the Knicks traded for him back in last January, it's like, okay, gave up Kevin Knox in the first round pick. Okay, and where are the Knicks going to come from? So he didn't play. He got a bunch of DMPs, but also he started playing well. Then he injured his shoulder against the Kings, and that was it for him. So,
all right. I mean,
so
I
so
just
it's like,
find it.
and plus, but also it's like, where the Knicks going to come from, because the rotation was just like, it was too many players in rotation.
Thibodeau doesn't necessarily like to play deep into the rotation.
Yeah.
That's just normally what he does. So,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say, like, John, I want to get your thoughts on this. This is about, like, do you see this being a sustainable thing? Knowing Tibbs, knowing he's very well known for running his guys into the ground, and by the time playoff time comes, they're gassed. And normally you get these first round exits or not much deep playoff runs. Unless of course you have Derrick Rose and then you run into LeBron James at that time. But I don't know. Like I just feel like the East is still very like there's like a there's a certain class that you have with Milwaukee and Boston. Brooklyn's starting to creep up there now, clearly as you can see, and then like there's everyone else. And I think from 3 down, it's like up for grabs. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
The Knicks can sustain it up to a first-round exit. That's just sort of like that. That's the ceiling for me.
Mhm.
Tibbs is doing what he does. He's tightening his rotations. He's making sure he's got people coming in that can defend. But first, before we get into that, I just want to thank Ernest for having me on the podcast. But I also want to let everybody else know that's friends with Ernest that if your team starts sucking and your record starts getting worse, be ready for that podcast to be invited. That's what he's going to invite.
Listen, I've been trying to get John on the show like since last season, and like I was just like, damn, like the Lakers, we freaking suck, and the Bulls were ascending, and Lonzo's Ball is playing this all-world point guard. And I'm just like.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan is a
DeMar
MVP.
DeRozan,
Yeah, right.
All-Star.
We were supposed to
breaking
sign, and
records.
we didn't want to sign. Like it just
two game winners back to back. Crazy, man.
Best record in the East.
Yep.
No, I think I think being realistic though, I think Tibbs, he's going to do what he's got to do to win. That's always been Tibbs's MO, and this year he's going back to what he did before last year, and he's playing guys that can defend and that can run the offense the way he runs it, and the turnovers have been greatly cut down as well with the Knicks. So they're playing really good, sound, fundamental basketball. And again, like Ernest said, like the rotations are tight. So that's not what all the other teams are doing. Not all the other teams are trying to like win. Like Steph isn't playing today, so it's a very different attitude that other teams are taking to these regular season games before Christmas as well.
Yeah.
So, the Knicks will be in the play-in. I'll be so shocked if they drop out of the play-in. They'll definitely be, in my mind, they could sneak even up to a 5, like a 5 through 10 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the Knicks ceiling, just because of the lack of offensive firepower, for me, is a first-round exit in the playoffs. That's as far as they're going to go in my mind. So,
yeah, I think in a playoff series. When you have Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson as your 1-2, because RJ Barrett clearly hasn't gotten there yet. You're limited to a certain
which
degree.
is far more than I thought they would be this year. To be clear, like they've been much better than I anticipated. But still, with that said, when it comes playoff time, this is the ceiling for me.
Well, would you consider what matchups would be in the first round, or is it like, okay, whoever they play in the first round, they're gonna lose?
Well, it's so you're looking at the top teams right now, and you're looking at Milwaukee, Boston, Brooklyn, and Philly. So all those top 4 teams, if they're in the top 4, I don't really see the Knicks really having a shot in a 7-game series against any one of those 4 teams. The Nets could go dysfunctional again, so you never know. It's still early. But just in my mind, that's just where I see it right now with the Knicks for myself. Like, unless they make a move at the deadline, unless they change things up a little bit. But again, in the end, talent reigns supreme in the playoffs. Everybody plays defense all of a sudden. And so it kind of like takes away Tibbs' equalizer. I was used to this on the Bulls. Like, he did this all the time. Like, the teams that play great in the regular season, we get a 1 seed and then peter out.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's the ceiling for the Knicks right now. Is the win streak sustainable? To a degree, I believe. Again, I mean they've had some impressive wins, but like I want to see them like play Boston, and what does that look like? I want to see them against these elite teams to kind of see, is this just a fluke, or is this something that the rest of the East has to like bat an eye and say, wait, maybe these guys are the real deal.
I mean,
But
let
go ahead.
Let me ask you real quick. Yo, Eric, you seen this coming, man? Like I'm trying to put myself in your shoes right now, right? Like if the Knicks went on a 7-game win streak, and like I know the question is like, do you think it's a fluke? Do you think this will continue? As a fan, I'm like, yo, I'm taking this. Like we rolling right now. We rolling
Exactly.
right now. They made the right adjustments. They playing the young guys, and I know Eric and
And
we
they're
used to
playing defense.
and they're
They're
playing
playing
defense.
defense.
We get, and the thing is that in crunch time possessions, you guys are giving Jalen Brunson the ball, and that was the issue I had against the Bulls the other day when they went to OT. Yeah, Julius Randle staying at the top of the key for X amount of time,
Yeah,
teeing up the shot
that
clock.
was a classic Tibbs play.
But then, right in overtime, you guys gave Jalen Brunson the ball, and what did he do? He closed the game for you. So, like, and I've said this before, like, you know, it's cool that Julius Randle can get you buckets, but the guy who's going to facilitate the offense and make defenses collapse is going to be Jalen Brunson. So just put it in that
100%
way.
agree.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
But
give the Knicks some credit though.
And I
like
think,
go ahead. I mean,
and I think that's the
fans
biggest difference.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest difference right there is Jalen Brunson. Like, he's come here and is like, okay, this is gonna be my team. So, and this kind of took the pressure off of Randall, just like get the ball out of his hands. More importantly, and just let him go onto the block and do his thing. So, but there've been times when like they've been having Randall bring up the ball at certain moments, and it's like Tibbs, no, we don't need that. We do not need that. So he just needs to get more creative in his offensive play calling, but maybe he's doing a little bit better of a job because he has Johnny Bryant on his side. But then again, they've been in together for the last 3 years, so who knows if he can like at least adjust to some kind of offensive structure or play calling that can at least alleviate Brunson and Randall and like try to at least get some like get the others involved, like RJ Barrett, maybe some more post-ups for Mitch, get some more bench scoring from Quickly, and once Obi Toppin comes back from injury, because he's out with the leg injury, we'll see where he ends up in the rotation. So there's still more questions in there with that. And also, as far as the trades coming up in this in February, we don't know yet. But they still got the 11 first-round picks. They still got a boatload of second-round picks.
We got
They still got
IQ,
to
D
they still got
Rose,
to
K
consolidate the
Reddish.
roster. They still got to consolidate their roster. So we don't know if what other moves that they might have up their sleeve.
Well,
So
I'll say this: you guys are in a somewhat of a different position from last year. I know that there was a show that we had where it was kind of like dead smack in the middle of the season where both of our teams was in the same position, but from the Knicks standpoint of view, it's like you guys are making these guys available, like IQ, D Rose,
yeah,
Cam
he's
Reddish,
been
guys
trade
that you could
talks.
guys that you could get some decent value for now that the Knicks are playing well now. So it's like you guys are not really
I would.
Yeah.
not especially. It also helps that you guys are on a 7-game win streak. So it's like, all right, cool. You guys are like kind of transcending up. You might have some good offers on the deal that could kind of put you guys in the right place.
It's still before Christmas.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Their schedule in late January beefs up a little bit more. So,
like I said, like right now, you guys are sitting at 10th in defensive rating and 13th in offensive rating. That is very impressive. That is a playoff team, right? Like if you're middle of the pack or at least if you're near the top 10 in both offense and defense, you tend to be a playoff team. But again, I need to see this against the elite teams in the East, and because more often than not, Tibbs does get out coached. So, it's like, are they going to regress and go back to the same old Julius Randle one-man offense and things of that nature? Like, I have to see when things really matter the most what it looks like. But we've saw a good small recipe of what it can be for the Knicks if they make the right moves down the line. Armani, to your point, they have some pieces that may be good enough to get good value back. Any trade involving Evan Fournier is going to involve them giving up a pick. That goes without saying. So, and even more so maybe Derrick Rose. So, we got to see. We got to see what's out there and what the moves they're trying to make. But so far, the Knicks they look good. They're certainly better than any of our teams that we are fans of in here right now. But yeah, it's good to see. In New York City basketball with the Knicks and the Nets right now playoff contenders as we sit here.
But just think about perspective, though. Going back to draft day, New York Knicks fans were furious.
Oh yeah,
on draft day.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, let's
Listen,
just really
so-
think about like where they've come
So
to now. And this,
so let me
to me, is still like a building year for them. This
Mhm.
there's no
Yeah.
championship aspirations here.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
but this is a building year where they're improving. So and they've got all those picks. To me, it's progress for them.
But I'll
Yeah,
tell you
for
this.
sure.
I'll tell you this during draft night, it was basically half the fan base was like, why the hell you trade out the 11 pick for more picks down the line? Other half was like, okay, I'm fine with them not for trading out the pick because if we draft someone at 11, who are we going to put on the roster to play? So it was like they damn if they do make a move, damn if they don't draft or so yeah, it was basically half the fan base was going that else. So
But it's
Yeah.
aging well
basically to
so
make a
far.
room.
So
Yeah,
so
it
it's
is
looking good.
aging well. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
it's aging well. And they still
Looks
got
like they
a whole
made the
lot
right
of
decision.
and they still got the Dallas pick and the Mavericks. Oof, they're in trouble.
Yeah. And to think back then how the fans and the media was up in arms about the Knicks giving Kristaps Porzingis. 2020 hindsight, you look now, that pick is actually worth something right now. So some good
And
foresight,
not getting nothing for Jalen
maybe
Brunson.
luck. Yeah, exactly. And they still Jalen Brunson from Dallas. So next up on the docket, a very sensitive topic for me. The Los Angeles Lakers, as you know, right now sitting in the 13th slot in the West at 13 and 17, right? If I'm not mistaken. 13 and 17. Who would have thought a team of Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, um, just can't get it together. And it's the second year in a row we're running into this issue of the fit and the roster construction and what the front office has done or has not done, and the fear of Anthony Davis staying healthy. We've all had that fear ever since he's gotten to LA. And aside from 2020, albeit we did win the championship, there was a break in between. I kind of kept AD, available for us. The last couple years, he's been hurt. And here we go again. Just like last year in December, an injury report comes out and Anthony Davis is hurt. You can't make this up. The same time this year, he got hurt in Minnesota. He was out for the MCL injury. So the guy's been playing like an all MVP, putting up monster numbers, been averaging for the last, I believe, 8 to 10 games. Anthony Davis has been averaging 46 points, 14 rebounds, shooting 65% from the field, over 85% from the free throw line. Like that is just like, those are Shaq like Wilt like numbers. And he was definitely on a tear. And what a way to kind of abruptly end that streak and that, progress for Anthony Davis with as the Lakers report, a foot injury, but it's not a sprain.
Man's got injured in the air. He got injured in the air. Nobody touched him.
Listen, and now Anthony Davis is out for a month. This puts the Lakers in a very, very interesting situation because, as my handle says, make a trade Rob Pelinka. I've been an advocate of getting Patrick Beverley banned from Crypto.com Arena. There is a GoFundMe account to remove Patrick Beverley away from the Los Angeles Lakers. He is a plague. So I've been an advocate on trading Patrick Beverley just to make the move around the margins. Because I feel like the team is starting to turn the corner, or at least I felt like it right now. And I think adding maybe a shooter or another big, just some depth that we need to help bolster this roster because LeBron and AD were playing at a top two duo level. And yeah, it's very interesting to see what they're going to do now. But Let me get JG in here to chime in first, because I know he's been chomping at the bit to talk about the Lakers and what they should and shouldn't do. So the floor is yours. What do you think? Given the Anthony Davis injury, what should the Lakers do from here on out? Should they trade the picks? Should they not trade the picks?
Well, if he's only out a month, they don't need to do anything.
Okay.
It's not actually a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's right now they're on pace for a at best 7 seed, in my mind. And I have to admit, like, I have been the biggest anti Russell Westbrook person that you can come across. But I watched the games this year, and he started to turn a corner. He looked like he was having fun, and he was embracing that role. So, yes, as annoying as it is, he likes to do that whole carry the baby thing. But you cannot win an NBA title with Russell Westbrook right now at this stage in his career as your third best player on your roster. It's just not going to happen, in my opinion. But all that said, the worry also with these kinds of injuries is how honest is the front office being. So, again, if it's just 1 month, it's really not a big deal, actually, at all. The biggest part is the load management of LeBron James at his age. And it's always the risk that the Lakers have. They have two very, very talented players play at a very, very high level when they're on, and that any team would love to have when they're playing healthy and on. But both players, LeBron is old. Let's just call it what it is. But he's doing amazing things at his age. And Anthony Davis, just this stuff just keeps happening. I always just kind of wait for this headline to come out every year, because it's just sort of what he's been doing. Yeah. And so, and again, Anthony Davis is one of the best players in the NBA when he's playing like this. So the Lakers have a really, honestly, like, I've been one of even with my opinion of Russell Westbrook, I have not been a fan of the idea of trading him, if I'm running the Lakers, because you're trading at a low point. Let him get some value, try to trade him when his value is a little higher, and get him off the roster and try to get back an elite talent, give up the picks, and do that. So if you feel good about AD being healthy moving forward, and you feel good about LeBron's physical condition, yes, you package the picks and you trade Russell Westbrook to bring in another elite star that can help push you to an NBA title. You've got LeBron James. Like, you didn't sign LeBron James just to kind of float in the middle of the pack. You should be in the top 4 easy. And you should be in the second round easily every year.
I agree. I have no qualms about what you said. I would say when it comes to, so I'm torn personally when it comes to a Russell Westbrook trade, because I know for sure that LeBron James has no desire, even though he should. He has no desire to be the point guard for the Lakers, because he says it's taxing on his body, and he always wants another dynamic playmaker to play alongside him to kind of spell him in those minutes throughout the dog days of the season and or long minutes throughout the game. And I've always felt like that decision or that stance has kind of hindered the Lakers in their roster construction of building, because instead of getting guys who LeBron has notoriously played around with just shooters and guys who would get their own bucket without him setting them up, the Lakers decided to go swing for the fences and go for a superstar point guard that relatively does the same thing that he does, and that's why I think that the fit is such an issue at times, because if LeBron James can benefit with Russell Westbrook having the ball, because he's a great cutter, he can get to the basket, he can shoot. But that's not replicated when LeBron has the ball. Russ, if he's not setting screens because he's not a great shooter, defenses tend to lag off of him and pack the paint. Now,
it's like 4-on-5 pretty much.
Exactly.
When that happens.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've always been a proponent of, if you're going to trade Russell Westbrook, it has to be a guy that can, like a Kyrie Irving makeup, that can.
You have to have a shooter.
Right.
You have to have a shooter.
Exactly.
There's no way you do that deal unless you get a shooter back. But if you get a shooter back, it opens up the entire Laker offense.
Right.
They need it badly.
Right.
They need outside shooting.
Yeah, for sure. The Lakers right now are dead last in 3-point percentage in the NBA. So, the game planning is easy when it comes to, opposing teams that come into the building. It's just pack the paint, let them shoot. We don't have faith in them. So, yeah, if Anthony Davis is good, and he's back in a month, then yeah, you have to continue to try to make this team better. But if not, as much as I hate to say it, if Anthony Davis is not coming back, and let's just say he's going to be out for another 3 months, we're looking at March here. At that point, if I'm the front office, I'm not making any move whatsoever. Um, we're not going to win without Anthony Davis, regardless. He's the key to all of it. So, Amani, what are your thoughts on what do you think the Lakers should do? And what's the stance that you take?
Honestly, I think we should just chill out. Like, no reason to hit the panic button. I understand that, Laker Nation, we want to win, right? And we get very impatient. We on the late night Lakers talk show every single night, so
Yeah.
we could feel that frustration from the rest of Laker Nation. But like when you look at some of the loss that we've had in the past couple of games, it's just like it hurts. It really stings, especially the one in Philly. Like Ernest, I know you went to the game in Philly, and that game was looking. We was looking like it was over, and next thing you know, like I checked the TV and we caught up, and I called you. I couldn't get any service though because you're in the arena. But I'm like, yo, we're really about to steal this game. We just needed an Austin Reeves free throw and an AD free throw, and we take that game home. And then play Boston. That one really staying. I'm still not over it. Like they're our nemesis, they're our rivals and everything. So to come back from I believe we was down 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then have a great fourth quarter, like doing all the right things. They're missing shots. They can't even get a bucket, right? We're doing all the right things. And then to come down to the end, like just stupid boneheaded plays, And then once the game went to overtime, I'm like, yeah, we're not winning this game, man. I was so frustrated at this game. But the AD injury, it was like, I would say it was kind of something that was kind of like waiting to happen because we all kind of like just grimace and grieve at the TV when we see him jump, when we see him land, all that stuff. So it's like
it's the
seriously,
scariest thing, John. Like it's so annoying.
Yo, it's so annoying. It's
when
like
he falls, I'm like, oh my god, he's okay. Like, is he okay?
At least your player can jump, all right, and run.
We're gonna get to Lonzo Ball soon.
And I think JG, you might feel the same way with D Rose. When he came back, it was like, yo, like every time he jumps, like every time he lands, he's gonna be okay.
Sure.
I felt the same way when Kobe came back. I remember there was a game Kobe had dived into. He jumped over the first row. I'm like, yo, bro, what are you doing? But with AD, it's just like, bro, like he made the layup over Jokic, and then next he comes up limping. I'm like, did he step on his foot? Like what happened, right?
It was
and
nothing.
Then the next play down, he hit Jokic with a Euro step and made the layup and was still limping. And I'm like, all right, you gonna walk it off, you gonna be all right. Like, and next I check back in the TV, he's out for the game. Huh? How? Like, you was able to put pressure on it. You're in the tunnel. You're jogging. You're able to put pressure on it. So, like, I'm just so confused. Confused.
And what also, like, lately, ever since the injury, he's been traveling with the team. He's not wearing a walking boot. He's not like. So I don't know what. And that goes back to JG's point about like the front office. Are they being upfront about like these injuries and what's actually happening? Because a part of me could also.
You think it's the Kawhi Leonard get an outside doctor?
No, I hope not.
Okay.
That's a whole different. Kawhi's a whole
Uncle Dennis and all of that.
Kawhi Leonard is finessing Steve Ballmer. I wish I had his job, but he has the easiest job in the world. But I think a part of me wants to believe that maybe the front office isn't so upfront about it, because if you're in trade talks with teams, right, that price goes exponentially higher if they find out Anthony Davis is not coming back. Now they know, oh, you're very desperate, and now you're gonna have to give up more in order, to keep your team afloat. So I'm just like, are they posturing because they don't want to like let that information out, and like maybe they're acting like the 5-year line with a deal or something like that? because those conversations have happened before. So I don't know. It's just a part of me like is thinking that as well. I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that?
But I mean, all in all, what I'm gonna say is that, like, you know, you look at the Western Conference. The Western Conference is wide open, right? You got the Warriors. They lost Steph. Steph is I'm not sure they gave him a timetable, but like we're
I
probably
think they
looking
give
at
him around a month.
like
Yeah,
a month,
they
right?
said
I
they
said
said 3 to 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Right. Charles Barkley has the Denver Nuggets being the number one seed. I don't know why he's an idiot for that.
It's Chuck. What do you
And,
expect?
right, and
Charles
then
Barkley.
You know, like sidebar. You know how bad it is for NBA TNT. The Knicks are blowing out the Warriors, and they're showing Warrior defensive highlights. That's how bad the coverage is.
right.
Okay.
But yeah, the Western Conference is wide open now. You had some teams like the Sacramento Queens, like they made a leap. You know what I mean? But it's like every time we all right, cool. We lost in Philly, right? Then we turned around, we lost in Boston. All right, cool. We beat Detroit, and I forget who was the other team that we beat. But it was like, all right, cool. We getting some steam again. And then we beat the Nuggets. We beat the Nuggets. And then this happens. And then we play the Suns. LeBron's not playing, Russ not playing, the AR-15 not playing, you know. So it's like, bro, like we can't get a break. It's like every time we go
speaking of not playing against Sacramento tomorrow, I don't believe that LeBron or Russ and Austin Reeves probably they're on the injury report as they may be out as well.
Right.
So.
And it's like, how can you get some steam when the guys are out? And then also, like, I know this is not a big needle mover, but you know, somebody who's been given, in my opinion, who's been giving us really good quality minutes in Wayne Gabriel. Like, I really like his defense. I really like his hustle. He's also out too. So it's like, and then also, me personally, I'm not a fan about him. I feel like he's all talking, don't do anything. JTA, I'm personally not a fan of him. He's out as well too. So it's like, you know, our wing depth, you know, our front court, like we don't have that, you know. So we got to rely on Kendrick Nunn and Pat Bev, you know. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna take a lot of bullets for this, but remember when Pat Bev became a Laker? I remember rewind a couple months ago. I said that Pat Bev was gonna be a Laker. I called it. But don't get me wrong. Like that's a play that you would love to have for your
not on this team, not on this damn team.
but like that's a play you would hate to play against, but that's somebody that you want to go to war with. And unfortunately, like we're not getting that from him at all. Like the guy could play 27 minutes, he can only give you 2 points, like plus minus negative, just a negative, you know.
Dude,
so
he's shooting 21% from 3.
So it's like, maybe it's the weather. He probably want to go back to the cold weather. He said he wants to go back to Minnesota. So, you know,
it's roster construction, man.
Small.
Yeah, thank you, John.
It's roster construction. like he's being forced to make shots. He's being forced to take shots he shouldn't be taking. And he should not be in those situations. And when he was on Minnesota last year, when I've seen him with the Clippers, the guy's a menace. Like, and he's tough, and he is the guy you want on your team.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't give up on him yet. Like, that's not my approach to this kind of stuff. Is I like to be patient and let's see how it all plays out. But I would not give up on him yet.
Hey man,
that's
he's
a guy.
if
you get in the playoffs, if you get in the playoffs with this guy, you're gonna be happy you have him defending Ja Morant in the playoffs. You're gonna be glad you have him like playing him and defending him because you could do a lot worse than having Patrick Beverley defend somebody like him.
You know, I would say good point on that for sure. But the problem is when you have a GM that says we view Patrick Beverley as a 3-and-D wing and he's 6'2", like that's WTF?
I'm trying to talk logically here.
3-and-D him?
That's not logical.
Like, I will definitely send you guys the clip. He at the opening press conference for the season media day, he stated we believe that Patrick Beverley is a 3-and-D wing. Right then and there, I knew. I said, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And to your point, John, about the roster construction, you're absolutely right. Because when have we seen Patrick Beverley initiate offense?
Yeah.
Like, and on top of that, why? And this is where I question Darvin Ham. What, like, the politics of things. I understand, you know, the big acquisition in the offseason was Patrick Beverley, but you're starting him with Dennis Schroeder.
That sounds crazy to say,
at the same time. So it's like you have 2 6'2" guards as your your 1 and 2. And then you're starting Lonnie Walker, who's only 6'4", as your small forward, and then you're starting LeBron and AD, and it makes no sense to me. It's like that's not Patrick Beverly's not a starting point guard in this league. I'm sorry.
Right.
He's the guy that comes off the bench and he mucks everything up. Like he's the gritty guy and
the Jose Alvarado.
Yeah, he's that type of player.
Yeah.
You don't start him and he's running your offense.
Right.
It's very frustrating. The roster construction is extremely questionable and disappointing for what this Laker front office is able to come up with. A trade that has to be made, whether it's sending Patrick Beverly to Cambodia or either trading Kendrick Nunn. But you
gotta go.
I'm split on the Westbrook
Damian
thing.
Jones gotta go.
Yeah, I'm
split. Gotta go.
I'm split on trading Westbrook because of the playmaking. I believe his playmaking is super important when it comes off the bench. He's found a role where he can literally. There are games where the Lakers starting 5 starts off flat. We're down by double digits by 11 minutes to go in the first quarter, and by the 6-minute mark, where Russell Westbrook comes in, the Lakers have the lead again because of his run. So I think the playmaking helps a lot. He has such great chemistry with Anthony Davis when LeBron is off the floor. It just gives another dynamic of an offense that we can provide and give trouble to in the playoffs. But at the same time, I'm a guy that wants some depth back because I don't believe in our bench. I don't believe in a lot of the guys that we have when it comes to playoff time. So if I can trade Russ and I can get back, PJ Washington or a guy like Kyle Kuzma or just one of these wings that are out there or DeMar DeRozan, dare I say, it gets back us. It gets the Lakers back depth that they can spread the wealth around. And now they have some wings on the perimeter. They got guys who are actual 3-and-D, and Patrick Beverly is a guard. So it's just I don't know. I'm torn on trading him, but also if they're going to trade him, it has to be for a guy like a Kyrie Irving makeup. It can't just be for for instance, I'm not a fan of the Lakers trading Russell Westbrook to Chicago for DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic. If you're gonna you're not solving the problem if you're doing that. So because now if you move off Russ and you take that Chicago deal, you don't have a playmaker now that can spell LeBron. Now LeBron has to play point guard. So it's just you have to consider these options around. And if nothing's gonna net you a guy that can spread the floor and shoot the basketball, like a Kyrie Irving, because I want Kyrie Irving on the Lakers, then to me it makes no sense to trade Westbrook unless you're gonna get ample depth back and a decent playmaker comes back in that return. But again, the Lakers they're back against the wall, and teams know that. So
let me ask you this question then. So just thinking about this, all right. So the year ends, and let's just say AD's injury is worse than you anticipated, and the year ends, and you end the year with Russell Westbrook on your roster. Are you re-signing Russell Westbrook? Because I got to follow up to this question.
It depends on the price.
If 3 for 70, that should do it.
It depends on the price.
So you want him back on the team?
I'll take him back.
It
depends on the price.
I would say this. It's not a definite yes. It's not a definite yes for me. The important piece before I even get to that decision is what is the rest of the roster going to look like before I even consider re-signing him.
Well, this is where I was going with this. So if I'm the Lakers GM and my season is pretty much lost because AD's injury is an issue or LeBron gets hurt again and it kind of turns into a repeat of last year, you look at the free agent class. It's not very good. Like Fred VanVleet and Kyrie Irving are like the highlights of the free agent class. So how are you going to construct a roster without trading Russell Westbrook to someone and attaching picks and getting a contract off someone's books that they may not want? And does that set you up for the next year? Because again, you still have LeBron next year, You still have AD next year.
Yep.
And so I that's where the only reason I brought that up is I don't fully agree. Actually, I think the choice becomes a lot more simple if the Lakers season ends up turning in to a repeat of, the last couple of years. That's just something to chew on.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally understand. I totally agree. It's a tough decision that they have to make. And they have to make the right one because they don't have a lot of time left. LeBron is not going to be here for the next 5-6 years, even though we've heard he wants to play until he's 45. It's just, you got to be realistic with your options and understand where you're at now. But hopefully, we get some good news in the next couple of days about Anthony Davis, and it's not as severe as we think or worried to be. And they can just proceed as they should. But yeah, they have to make a move to improve this team no matter how you slice it. They're not a championship roster right now, for sure. Speaking of front offices, man, the Chicago Bulls, what is going on in Chicago? I mean, having a ridiculed or injury, like just ridiculed season last year. I was very high in Chicago, as Eric knows. We had our highlight of our season last year was that he thought Chicago wasn't going to be any good, and I was like, you are on.
I wasn't
on dust, and I felt Chicago that makeup of the team that you guys built last season. I thought was going to be really good, and they proved that until they got ridiculed with COVID and injuries. That kind of derailed their season. So I kind of figured, I
was rooting for DeMar, man.
I was very happy for DeMar and how he played last year. And, I thought Chicago was going to go only up from here. My only concern was, and I said this in the offseason, I said Chicago has to make, no, not even just the Bucks. I was like, Chicago needs to just make one move. And that one move is to get a point guard to spell Lonzo Ball, because I wasn't confident in him coming back. And they haven't done that, which begs the question for me is, did they shortchange themselves because they knew they had to pay Zach the max? And then on top of that, do they feel that they have a contending type of roster to pour money into to make sure they stay afloat? Because I felt if they brought the same quarterback and all they did was just add a dynamic point guard that can spell or at least keep them afloat until Lonzo is healthy, I thought Chicago was going to be one of those top of the teams in the East. But now we're here. They're 11-18, sitting at, I believe, 13th in the East right now. I don't know, John.
I got a question real quick. What's the timetable on him? Is he?
It's infinity.
Because I see what you guys playing the chat today, and I'm like,
they were saying Lonzo, he's having trouble walking, so that's a
he can't jump.
Yeah,
he can't
jump.
He has trouble walking. So
I've watched basketball before, and jumping's kind of important. So,
Exactly.
So look, here's the thing. So I'm just gonna, whenever something like this comes up, and I've been getting blasted with texts from Ernest about this. So whenever something like this comes up, I like to pull it back for a second. Let's look at the facts for a minute and remove the emotion from the entire situation, and let's really look at this. So here's the facts. Bulls with Lonzo Ball were 22-13, 1 seed going into the All-Star break. You got Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan talking about how they're the best duo in the NBA. All right. So not that I agreed with that, but that's what they were saying. After the Lonzo Ball injury, the Bulls were 1 game over 500, and they're 11-18 so far this year. So let's just think about that for a second, and why, when we were talking about Anthony Davis's injury and why it's before Christmas, even with the Knicks, it's before Christmas. In this season right now, it is before Christmas, before we start jumping to conclusions. I am not going to say, hold on, let me finish. I am not going to say that this is going to happen, but 1 year ago today, the Boston Celtics lost to the 76ers, and that dropped them to 15-16. And what was everybody talking about them? The Boston Celtics need to trade Jaylen Brown to the 76ers for Ben Simmons.
That tandem.
And that's what everybody was talking about. Those two can't play together. They don't work well together. There's no chemistry, all that kind of stuff. All that, I just want to cover that piece of it first. Second thing, if you're going to blow, a couple other things actually. So
he got the
Bulls.
He got the
So the Bulls led the NBA in attendance starting in 2009 and held that streak going all the way up to 2019, where that streak ended, and then in 2020, where that streak ended as well. After those 2 seasons, what did Bulls ownership do? They changed their top of their basketball operations, and they got rid of John Paxson and Gar Forman because that wasn't cutting it for them. They got the biggest stadium in the NBA. They want to fill that thing. So that right there. So what was the sort of marching orders that they got was to be aggressive. The Bulls front office was tasked with being aggressive to the point where they just threw picks out like they were nothing. And they went out and got Vucevic. They gave up a pick for DeMar DeRozan to bring him in. They gave up a second-round pick to bring in Lonzo Ball and all of that. So I only set this up for a second just for everybody to kind of realize they didn't just go aggressive just to run into some – look, losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves and giving up 150 points without Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns is about as low as it can get. They're beating Miami by 13 right now. So they're beating Miami by 13 right now. But when people say blow it up, like what I really want to know is for what? So you blow it up, all right? And then let's just look at this for a second. So the Magic have our pick this year, and it's top 4 protected. We can get down to a 5 at best. The bottom 4 teams have a lock on it. So if you get down to the 5, and let's just say we end up around the 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, Orlando gets that pick, and then they have their own pick, which is going to be around a 5 or 6 or 7 pick as well. I have no interest in helping Orlando build on their really solid core out there and bring in 2 really young, talented people in a deep draft like this. That sounds real scary to me. But we're kind of tanking already without trying. So in my mind, like the only real logical thing to do right now is, one, you could do a few things. And depending on the deals that come to you, would I like to get out of Zach LaVine's contract? Absolutely. I don't think that contract's going to age well. I didn't like the contract when we did it. I felt like we were kind of cornered into doing it because we had really no choice because of the way the salary cap works. And again, I want to point out, no real free agents coming along next year. The Bulls are not going to be in the mood for a rebuild. I read you the attendance numbers. The Bulls also had the best away attendance record in the NBA last year too, followed very closely by the Lakers, and then right after that, the Golden State Warriors. So draw is important to the Bulls ownership. They made changes for that. They are not going to have an appetite for that, especially when you don't have your own pick next year. And there's all that risk. And I'm not betting on ping pong balls flying around and landing in my right direction. Zero interest in that. Other thing to point out, Bulls have their 2024 pick. Yes, that's good. Bulls also this year get Portland's pick, which is lottery protected. So let's just say you deal Vucevic, for something, for ideally maybe a first round pick later. That would be amazing. But a guy on an expiring contract to somebody, and you shed that, but you kind of hold on to your core. I've got no interest in getting rid of DeRozan, no interest in getting rid of Caruso, as those are guys you can hold on to. I think DeRozan's game ages well. He takes care of himself, and it doesn't really – he's a mid-range guy. That's how he produces offense. But, again, if you can get me out of LaVine's contract and I had a plan for replacing LaVine with a max player next year, that makes sense to me. But I don't really see like a logical thing because the Bulls also, it's top 10 protected, but the Bulls also in 2025 don't have their first round pick as it goes to San Antonio.
Right.
So, like, look, I love the aggressiveness that we showed. It was like a breath of fresh air after, like, oh, we're going to actually try to win. That's great. But with that comes risk, and you don't just go blow it up when you hit, what is it? Where are we on? The second month of the season? So we're 2 months in.
3 months.
Yeah.
Just about,
So I've always seen this many, many times in the NBA where things start out a certain way and they end a little differently. I'm not saying the Bulls are winning a championship. No way am I saying that. But I am saying that I think the Bulls they have the talent to do it, to pull into the top 8. Where does that get you? I don't know. But what I do know is I've at least got a first-round pick next year, and then maybe I don't help Orlando get like an incredible pick that's all the way down around the 5 or 6. And look, we may just suck all year and be in this position and be at the 7. We still got a 33% chance to drop in the bottom 4, and at least I didn't have to lose assets to do it going into next year, where I'm trading low and getting bad things back. So I'll leave it there. Those are the facts as I see them. But I'm all for a different point of view. But if someone's got something logical that makes me better, and it doesn't give me like a rebuild where I'm like back to the Garpax era. Look, man, the Chicago White Sox fans are renting billboards outside Comiskey Park right now, like roasting the Reinsdorfs right now for not trying to win. So, we are getting sick of this. Like, we are the third biggest city in the country.
Yeah.
We should not, we should not be doing rebuilds, and the Lakers shouldn't be doing it. The Knicks shouldn't be doing it. When you're in a major market, you should not be talking about rebuilds. Like, there's no reason for it. And also, I will say just one more thing. I do feel very strong right now. By the way, that Portland pick would be a 17th pick, the 17th pick in the draft if the season ended right now. And on top of that, I do not think that the Bulls shifted this approach, not thinking about free agents for later. They wanted to turn themselves into a free agent destination where people would want to come play and where they would see that they're trying to win and not doing a rebuild. And not like the Jerry Krause years. So I think that there is sort of this cultural shift that they were trying to make. Yeah. So a rebuild just doesn't fit into the way they've been acting this entire time. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of where I see it right now.
So I have a small challenge to that. When it comes to, again, it was reported, it could be true or not true, but Sham Charania from the Athletic is pretty damn credible.
I agree.
Can that dynamic between Levine and DeRozan be solved? Because what it seems as if it's Levine was out most of the year last year, and DeRozan was carrying the Bulls for the majority of the year. Heroic efforts, with game winners and clutch moments he's had last season. And, Zach is now on this new max contract deal. The Bulls are, essentially building around him and making him the focal point, clearly. For me, I like locker room stuff does affect the decisions of the front office as well and how they need to move and pivot. So, that's my concern when it comes to Chicago at this juncture, especially because of the losing.
Are you going to worry about that right now and jeopardize your future as a result? Look at what they did in Philly with Ben Simmons. We all thought they had to move him as fast as they could, and look what happened. They ended up with James Harden. I think they got fleeced in that deal, and it's not going to age well, in my opinion. But that's another story. But in the end, as a GM, your job is to be unemotional. Your job is to look at the facts. And again, yes, I have the pad out. I'm a facts guy. So, I think it's really important for the GM's job is to step back and be level-headed about these decisions. And so, if you know what, you're paid millions of dollars. If you got to coexist with someone that you don't really like that much for a year while we kind of figure out the next path forward, there's no real reason to jump the gun, in my opinion. And last year, the chemistry was great. What was the difference? They were a 1 seed for the beginning of the year. So they were winning. So yeah, that changes everything. So I do think, and this is where I give the Bulls front office a lot of flack, is not knowing the extent of Lonzo's injury. I'm worried that he's never going to be able to play basketball again, personally. It's reminding me a lot of the Greg Oden situation where everyone kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for him to come back, and he never did. And so, like, yeah, that definitely gives me a lot of concern that their answer to that was to sign Gordon Dragic. You know, like, that's not an acceptable answer if you don't know the extent of Lonzo Ball's injury. And, I mean, you got doctors working for you. So, like, come on. Like, you need to know better than this. So that's really where I fault the Bulls front office, is not having a better backup plan to that. But because if you really look at it, Vucevic, DeRozan, and Levine, none of them are known for defense. Not
right. Yeah.
They brought in Caruso and Lonzo Ball to make up for that. And we were getting transition baskets. They were causing problems in the perimeter. Those two were fun to watch on the defensive side of the ball. That's actually where it's missed the most, because you're not creating those transition baskets. Levine's not getting out running. And so.
No, great points, John. You know, again, I always wanted to get a perspective from, you know, a fan that's like entrenched in what's going on with, you know, with that city and that team. So, good insight on that. And I'm on par with what you're saying. Like, it makes sense when you really break it down. I'm just concerned going forward, if they can't solve this issue between DeMar and Zach, what is the next step going to look like? And for what it's worth, it's now your value is kind of depreciated a little bit the further along DeRozan gets in his career. So
I'll be honest, I want to extend DeRozan. So like for me, he's the type of player you want to keep around. He sets a good example. He's shooting free throws after games when the gym's empty. Like, he's that work mentality, instead of Zach LaVine blaming his coach when he's only scored 4 points and he's being sat out in the final 2-3 minutes. Or when you got Vucevic yelling at you for not covering the weak side.
Yeah.
I got a problem with that. And honestly, these tempo issues that the Bulls have without Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine should be able to fix them. So I would like to personally, I want to have an honest conversation with him and say, is your knee healthy? If your knee is not healthy, we're going to shut it down. Like, let's just, this isn't working, so let's get your knee right. Yeah. And when you miss the first 2 games of the year without it being like knee maintenance.
Yeah, that was weird.
The first 2 games of the year.
Yeah, that was a red flag.
Yes, it was.
And it was right after he got the money. It was just like, wait, well, all of a sudden now your knee's an issue. It's very weird. Very weird.
It just was odd that the Bulls, and this is my big problem with how the Bulls run their organization, and this is Jerry Reinsdorf textbook. They signed Billy Donovan to an extension. We don't even know the terms of that extension, and it was just done in the offseason, and they didn't tell anyone. So
it was out of the blue.
Yeah.
It was literally
the way they operate. And look, I don't like the situation we're in, but I also am a big believer in just not making things worse. And if things, let's see in a month, where we're at, and let's see where the season's at and where it's trailing. And if, I'd rather get something back for players that aren't going to be back next year. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think blowing it up, and I even tried to look at some scenarios. There's not a really, even when you're trying to I was looking at Vucevic maybe to the Miami Heat. Well, the matching salaries is the problem. We don't the players they're going to want to send back. We're not going to want to take on those contracts to make the matching salaries work. Right. So it doesn't. There's not a real good solution when you look at the trade market because of the box that the Bulls have kind of put themselves in.
Yeah. No, I agree, John, and I think this is a good time to segue into, as the Bulls may be early mid-season disappointment. We can talk about early mid-season surprises. What are your teams right now that surprised you, and like maybe this is not a fluke for them. Like they're actually maybe a contender or a playoff team.
So for me, the surprise for me is that, going back to the Timberwolves, I thought they'd be better earlier, and again, I think that that's going to change as the season progresses. But I thought adding Gobert to that team I thought it was a high price to pay, but I did think that I thought it would play out a little better than it has so far. So when they're not playing the Bulls, yes, they're not, they're, I think they're underperforming a little. So that's been a surprise to me. I got to be honest, the Sacramento Kings have been a surprise to me. That has caught me off guard. And that I did not have the Kings playing this well. And I was a little more optimistic on them last year, and they really let me down on that. And I sort of wrote them off a little bit. But I've been a little surprised by the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
Mike Brown has done a hell of a job turning that team around thus far, having them competing. So, definitely, the Kings are definitely one of those teams that are a surprise. Eric, what you got?
My surprise team, but on the disappointing side, the Toronto Raptors. Like there's something's not right with that team. I mean, Scotty Barnes, he hasn't played well. Fred VanVleet, he's been in and out. Yeah, but at the same time, I expected him to play better than he has played. Fred VanVleet is another guy who's been in and out of injury. Pascal Siakam has been balling like an all-star, but they're about to become a team in that area where it's like, okay, do you want to start to think about going in this other direction, or try to compete for a playoff spot or play in, because they're starting to drop down in the standings, and them and the Bulls are right neck and neck. And don't look now at the Magic, who won 6 straight and lost last night in a close game to the Hawks. They crept up back into playing to contention. So I expected the Raptors to be way better than they've been playing. Do I see them improving? Hopefully they get their stuff together. Just like, and their problem is their defense has not been good at all. Like last year, they were like one of the top, top of the half in the NBA in defensive rating. This year, they're not, and that's the hallmark of Nick Nurse. So they're gonna have to clean that up, and yeah, that's my surprise team right there.
I'll go with the Pelicans. We all seen their defeat last year against the Phoenix Suns, and usually, like, when you have a group of young guys, right? The league and spectators always say, well, they're going to be great next year. And sometimes they just don't live up to that, but they have been. My only issue was that they're losing the teams that they should be like beating. I know they lost to Utah twice in the past 2 weeks, I believe, and it's just like, bro, you can't lose to Utah. Like, Utah doesn't know what they want to do. And like, you have all this firepower. Like, Zion is playing really, really good. Like, Zion can give you like a really, really good game, and then like come out and get smoked by Giannis, the following game. Also with Brandon Ingram being in and out of the lineup, they were still able to hold down the fort. The biggest thing that surprised me was that that they're not afraid, and that's the type of energy that you need to have as a young team, especially like I'm alluding to the game against the Phoenix Suns, and Zion made that point. Like, we all know, like, we all fans of the game, we all know that, when a team is up big and you have the ball, you're supposed to dribble out the clock. But Zion was like, nah, like, you guys send my homies out the playoffs. So like, this is not just a game where we're going to win the regular season. This is like a punctuation. And as far as the Suns, like, they haven't proved anything, but like, they've been sitting top dog of the West for the past couple of seasons. So like, Zion. Zion's like, yo, we're here too. Like, we're coming for that spot, and like, you're on a list. You know what I mean? So just the Pelicans just been playing really, really good. I remember watching that game that Jose Alvarado like scored like 30 against the Nuggets, and like that was a huge big deal for him. Like you can definitely feel like that the city that New Orleans is definitely behind them. And that's the type of energy that you need. It kind of reminds me of the Thunder back in 2010 when they made that playoff run and they ran up against the Lakers. Like just having those young guys that are hungry. That's like, all right, cool, we lost, but like, all right, we're definitely gonna show you guys. And that's what they did. The Thunder dominated the league for the next couple of seasons. Like they eliminated us in 2012. Went to the conference. Matter of fact, went to the finals that year. Returned to the conference finals against the Warriors in 2016. So the Thunder they put a lot of people on their hit list. And they showed people that they was true contenders. Obviously, couldn't get the job done and win the championship, but the Pelicans just been out here just like gunning. So.
Yeah, I agree. My John and Ron, you guys took my 2 picks with Sacramento and the Pelicans. It just hurts to see the Pelicans be good and the Lakers be bad because obviously they own our pick this year. Well, it's a pick.
I know Eric and I spoke about this.
It's a pick swap. So evidently, if the Lakers do tank, right? Like if the Lakers do tank, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Lakers end up with the number 1 pick. The Pelicans can say, "Yeah, we're gonna swap picks, and we're gonna take the number 1 pick from you guys," and they can get Wemby along with Zion and Brandon Ingram. So yeah,
I mentioned that earlier.
That will finally determine who won the trade. If that happens,
I'm
sorry. No.
That is the worst case scenario. Oh my God, I am fearful.
I won't be hearing from you for a couple months.
No, you won't. You won't. Guard a bridge, everyone. Guard a bridge. But yeah, those 2 teams were my surprises for sure. My disappointments, though, well, my first acknowledgement will go to the Dallas Mavericks. After not really going in on Brunson or at least losing him for nothing made no sense whatsoever. They overplayed their hand back in January at the deadline. They felt his market wasn't as high. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of tampering from the Knicks. We know this. And they had it all. They had a CAA and everybody had to set it up. They set it up. They had his pops work for the organization and everything. We get all that. But, again, Dallas made a mistake losing Brunson for nothing. Or trying to play their hand back in January when Brunson thought his, at the time, I think Brunson only wanted maybe, I think it was 20 extra million on top of what he was getting already from Dallas. Dallas felt like that was a little bit too expensive, and they felt that the market would have been a lot cheaper for him. Then Brunson balled out in the playoffs, and then here's $100 million contract for the Knicks.
That did not make any sense to me.
Yeah. I didn't understand that. Like immediately during the playoffs, if I was the front office, I'm making a move to keep Brunson, or if I know I'm going to lose him, I make a deal. Like I have to set myself up.
And he's playing like an all-star right now. So
yes. Right now, if the all-star game started, I think Jalen Brunson is an all-star for sure.
And Mark Cuban doesn't strike me as the type of owner that penny pinches. Right. So it was just a very odd, peculiar move on my part. Like just from me looking at it on the outside, like I thought they were going to keep him.
Exactly. Especially how he performed in the playoffs, man. And how like he was one of the main reasons why Phoenix could not do anything with him in that series. And they didn't add anything around him to elevate that roster. Like they added Christian Wood. Their offseason acquisitions were Christian Wood and JaVale McGee. Like, all right, like that does nothing when you already had the white power Max Cleaver on your team. Like, I don't understand. You're adding more bigs where you lost another playmaker that Luka needed to spell him during minutes. Now Luka's doing everything. And if they continue on this trend, I don't foresee Luka staying there. If this is the thing that Dallas is going to do, I do believe Mark Cuban will wake up and ensure that the front office makes some moves to improve the roster. But they have been a disappointing team thus far this year. Right now, they're sitting at, I believe, the 11th or 10th spot right now in the Western Conference. Then my second most disappointing surprise team would be the Golden State Warriors. And the reason why I say the Warriors is because, we lost Eric for a second. The reason why I say the Warriors is because I understand they've gone through. They won the championship, and it's the championship hangover. They won, I believe, was it 5 titles in the last?
It's
8
really crazy.
years?
They can't win on the road, and
Right.
that says a lot.
They're 3-16 on the road.
That's crazy.
They lost. They lost Otto Porter Jr. They lost Gary Payton the second. I really thought, at the very least, they were gonna, at least keep Gary Payton. I thought they were gonna re-sign him.
Yeah.
But losing him, and I get it. Joe Lacob and Bob Myers. Their money is long, and Bob Myers. Well, Joe Lacob has been on the record saying, they're willing to go and pay that tax bill, but clear as day, maybe they're like, wait a minute, this is too much of a bill to bite. Because of they're not bringing back Gary Payton Jr., not bringing back Otto Porter Jr. They probably thought, hey, we have a farm of young guys and Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman and the other guys is gonna like fill in those roles. I questioned in the offseason that's a lot to put on these young guys who've never been in that situation before. Yes, they've been in the finals, but like this is something consistent that the Warriors have been doing. They're just getting there. I felt like it was just a lot to put on those young guys to perform well. And thus far they've already sent Wiseman to the G League. He's expected to be back, but again,
he's back. He's playing tonight.
Okay, good. So I just don't think it's just a championship hangover. I think the roster is an issue for the Warriors. And given the fact that now you look at Steph being out, now it's hurt, and Klay Thompson doesn't quite look the same. He's had a little
older.
Right, he's
had. Of course,
he's
older.
Do y'all think? Here, but
do y'all think this is the end of Klay Thompson, or you think he have like one more?
No, a guy like Klay Thompson, because of his shooting ability, you can never. He'll always be serviceable, because he can shoot so well. Defensively, though, he has digressed a little bit, obviously because the lower extremity injuries that he's had. You can't expect him to be the same player he was 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Can I ask you a question? If you had to pick whether or not the Golden State Warriors would be in the top 6 by the end of the year or out of the top 6 at the end of the year, and your life depended on it, which one you picking?
I'm saying it end.
Yeah, they're
in. So again, it's before Christmas.
No, I get it. Yeah. No, I understand.
And I'm with you that it's disappointing, but this is just one of those teams where I just don't worry about it. And maybe I'm just being naive, but they've got the best shooter I've ever seen, and they've got a team that plays defense when it really comes down to it, and they've got elite talent. I just feel like they're going to come around, and we'll see.
Yeah.
I wanted to put that on the record, but you can call me out on it later. But I definitely think they've
been getting blitzed in this East Coast road trip, and they're down by almost 30 right now.
I just think when it comes here's the biggest piece. Depending on how long Steph is out, is the hole too big for them to crawl out of. That's the thing. If they keep getting, and I get it, the West isn't as inflated as it was before. It's a parity thing going on right now.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's bigger than just the championship hangover. I legit have questions about their roster construction, and as much as we want to look over the Draymond Green issue, that dynamic also is there, and his free agency is looming over the team, and what are they going to keep the Clay, Dre, and stuff all together? All that stuff to me matters, and with championship teams like that, when contracts get into play and who's getting what money, and
the last dance,
usually that breaks up. That's the implosion.
The last dance.
So this is going to be the test of their dynasty here coming up here.
It's the last
to me,
dance.
it's going to be whether the young dogs coming up in the West with Memphis, with the Pelicans, are these teams going to be able to unseat them when it comes playoff time? It's going to be fun to watch.
For sure.
And we'll see. We'll see if they're up for it. So.
Yeah.
This is the last dance.
Yeah, and before
Jordan Poole and Scott Burrell.
Oh man, Scott Burrell. Jesus.
Oh man, yikes.
That's a name I haven't heard in forever. Scott Burrell. Jesus. That's like
he became. I kind of actually. I gotta admit, I kind of forgot about him until I watched that.
like he was
that,
MJ's doppelganger. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
It was him
He
and
did
Randy
have some
Brown.
pretty decent games. Yeah, Randy Brown. I remembered.
Randy
But,
Brown.
Scott Burrell, I actually forgot about it. And then watched it. Like,
Oh my God, Scott
Oh,
Burrell.
man.
Jesus Christ. What a crash dummy he was. Anyway, before we end the show, I know we're going over hour 20 here. Before we end the show, I just want to get you guys' last thoughts on MVP. Who do you think right now should be the MVP? Or even to make things even better, easier, give me your top 5 MVP in order so far this year.
I mean, it has to be Giannis right away. I mean, he's carrying his team. They're a 1 seed. Giannis is playing too in the games, and he's Milwaukee's got some issues, I think, in their roster construction as well. And I don't think we've got their final roster moving forward, but I don't see how you can look past Giannis again. And I think Durant is coming on.
For sure.
And I think it's going to be real hard to ignore what he's pulling off right now and kind of keeping that team together. Got to go with Ja Morant. Zion for me then would be like 4th after that. Honestly, I thought Luka would be 5 for me, but he just hasn't. I mean, it's not his fault. Like, he needs help, and he's definitely doing his part. But yeah, I can't. Anthony Davis was in the conversation for me for a little bit. He was starting to come on, but still early. But those would be my top 4. I don't know if I have 5. So.
Okay.
For me, I'll probably. It kills me to say this, man, but he's going to be a Laker in the next couple of years.
I know where you're going.
I can't believe I forgot about him.
Jason Tatum.
That damn Jason Tatum, man, hit that cold-blooded fadeaway against LeBron, man. Like, bro, I understand you've been in the lab with Kobe, but you didn't have to hit that shot, man. Jason Tatum, I will go with Embiid. Joel Embiid, like the numbers he's been putting up has just been really crazy, man. Like in terms of like some of the best performances we've seen this season, you got to put him up there. You got to put AD up there. You got to put Jokic. Jokic just put up a crazy stat line a couple of nights ago, and I feel like Jokic is starting to come into his own, but not. I'll probably so I got Tatum, Embiid, Giannis. I'll go with Jokic, and the 5th one is kind of hard because, like, I want to say Luka, but they're struggling right now. I want to say Zion, but sometimes it can be a little bit inconsistent. Like I need, for Zion's sake, I can't go off what he's done in the past because this is fresh. Like you gotta be more consistent. You gotta show me.
He's shooting 73% from the field though.
Yeah,
and he doesn't take threes. That's like,
dude, and he is a and one machine.
Yeah,
he is drawing and ones after and one.
I can't say. I really can't say I got a 5th. I can't say. Yeah, I'm gonna think on that, but
okay.
Yeah.
Eric, what you got?
So 1, I got Giannis. 2, I got Jason Tatum. 3, Jokic. 4, I got Joel Embiid. And number 5, I got Ja Morant.
Not bad.
Joel Embiid, he's been a monster since he came back.
I feel like you should have won MVP last year, man.
You should have won it over Jokic. So you should have won it over Jokic.
For sure, yeah.
He had the big 53-point game against the Hornets.
Crazy.
Jokic, he had a 42-27 game against the Hornets.
The Hornets.
They need to break up.
Newsflash for the NBA fans: the Hornets need to Jordan sell it all, man. Just sell it all, like please.
They like to throw on the Raptors of like
man.
LeBron and Kobe. You know.
The Hornets
going
are
just
so
fine.
bad.
Everyone, leave it alone. It's an easy win in the Eastern Conference. Everyone
Exactly.
everything's going just as planned.
So it's me a final score: Knicks 132, Warriors 94, 8 in a row.
Yeah.
So and tomorrow they're at home against the Raptors, another struggling team.
Yeah,
So
they
that might be 9.
They should get 9 straight. They should get 9 straight. But
Leading up
definitely.
Yeah. And then
No, for sure.
Friday home Bulls, then Christmas Day Sunday 76ers. That's gonna be the game to watch.
Yeah, that's definitely the Knicks. The Knicks are going to Christmas on a 13-game win streak. So that'll be pretty impressive for sure.
Bulls beat Miami as well. So there we
go.
Oh,
nice.
Oh, nice.
Must be nice to get some wins. Because the Lakers put out anyway.
Quick question.
I don't want to be depressed.
Quick question before we go. The Miami Heat. What's wrong with them? Because they're I said before the season started that the PJ Tucker let him go to Philly is going to cost them, and they haven't. They've been off kilter all season long.
So this is another team for me that's like going to be fine as it comes down to it. I mean, I do think that they were in my, in one of my disappointments, kind of going into the year so far. But again, I've never really loved their roster construction. Though.
Remember, their biggest acquisition was Udonis Haslem.
Yeah. I just and Jimmy Butler didn't play today, so Kyle Lowry didn't play today. So I don't know. I think there's a bigger plan with Miami on how they're kind of staging this out. The thing about Miami is they are as smart as any organization when it comes to physical conditioning, their medical team, all of that, and just kind of understanding how to get the most out of your players, like physical abilities. So I feel like they're going to be okay, as much as I hate Miami and I hate their fans, but outside of that, they run a solid organization. So
yeah, for sure. Before I'll give my top 5 MVPs. Anthony Davis.
Man, I wish, man.
but no. Realistically, though, I would have to go with Giannis. He's been doing. He legit could have been a 3 straight, 4 times straight, 5 times straight MVP. I just think, the narrative with me, they get tired of the same person winning. It's just like Jordan could have been MVP every year. LeBron.
Same thing about LeBron.
Every year. Yeah, exactly. So, but I do think Giannis right now, you can't deny that a number 1 seed in the East, number 1 offense in the league because of him. I believe top 3 defense also because of him. So, I think, Giannis is number 1, Jason Tatum will be number 2 for me. Number 3, I'm going to say Kevin Durant. And
he's a sleeper, but he's been
throughout all the crap that Brooklyn's been going through. He's been the constant, and now they're on the up and up. Last night he put up 40. Was the night? It wasn't even last night, but a couple nights ago. He put up 26 points in 1 quarter. This is insane. Yeah, against the Pistons. I think Kevin Durant is starting to creep in there. I got him at 3. I got Embiid at 4. Can't deny what he's been doing. And 5, it's a 3 player race between Zion, Ja Morant, and Luka. That's depending on, for me, that's where they're at with the seeding right now. I got to put Ja over Zion. Memphis is playing well.
Let me ask real quick. Where does where does D-Book stand?
I lost respect for him after what happened to him last year's playoffs game, punked by Jalen Brunson.
And Luka's his father.
Yeah,
crazy,
but still, I cannot get over the fact that they were down 40 at home in the game 7. I'm sorry, I just can't get over that.
Hey, listen,
new season. It's a new season, though.
I know.
Look,
I feel you though.
It happens. Look, hey, listen, Kobe got blown out.
Yeah,
finals game. You know what I mean? We lost to the Celtics by 30 in the finals game, the clinching game. So It
Right.
happens.
That's right.
It happens.
At
It happens.
Boston.
It happens.
Right,
So-
and we lost to Phoenix in a game 7, and they felt like Kobe quit on the team.
Yeah, but that was both on the road. This was at home though. That's different.
I know. I get it, but Booker, he doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, because I think he's deserving to be in that conversation, especially last year. I honestly, I just think that the media and like just the NBA discourse, they don't like the Suns. They just not.
Yeah, nah.
They don't like the Suns.
Yeah, screw the Suns, man.
And
well, it's also West Coast, like time zone.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're not playing your games. Yeah.
You might want to watch Cameron Payne.
Phoenix is not like a big market, so like
they're doing push-ups after they beat the Magic. Get out of here, man.
Yeah, listen.
Not showing up for it. Get out
Whatever
of
they
here.
do for social media, but
yeah, cornballs.
There's a lot of hate for Phoenix here. I see.
Yeah, man.
But again, I think Booker doesn't get enough love around the league for what he's done. I just think he's in a, you know what he is? He's in the middle of the pack type of guy that's like the Donovan Mitchells of the world. That like he can't, like, you question, can he be the guy? Now, I don't know if Devin Booker could be the guy. Like, if you look at the top 5 MVPs, like, you look at Giannis, you look at KD or Embiid or
would you say like Indiana Paul George? Like a guy who just out there just
he's better than Indiana Paul George.
He's better than Indiana Paul George.
Okay.
I would say like Orlando Magic, T-Mac.
Okay,
that's fair.
That's fair.
Like around that, like he needs more around him to, and like he can't, like, I don't know. It's just Booker's not the guy. Like, how Donovan Mitchell's like, you can't have him be the focal point of like your offense of your team, right? Like, he's not the lone superstar. Like, you're gonna need comparable pieces around and really good pieces in order to uplift his game. So I think Booker's in that category. Like, you can't just say, like, you could throw LeBron on any team and like, all right, they're gonna be a championship team. You throw Giannis on any team, they're most likely a championship team. Like, he's not of that caliber, at least yet. So I just don't think he gets enough love, though. Like, for sure. Like, I just think because he's in the market of Phoenix. I mean, it's just one of those things. But
I just want to edit one thing. I should have put Joel Embiid in my top 5. That's insanity. So I don't want to go off the air.
Yeah, because I'm sure on Twitter they were like, "Who the F is this guy?" He forgets to Joel Embiid.
I lose all my credibility immediately, and I would understand.
No, but to conclude this, John, thank you so much for joining us on the Swoosh Hoops podcast, episode 33, the Scottie Pippen episode.
Patrick Ewing episode.
Or the Patrick Ewing episode. Jesus Christ.
I feel like Draymond's going to make a LeBron reference somehow, some way, man. Somehow.
Or we could call it the Creole Abdul-Jabbar episode. How about that?
Or Larry Bird.
Whatever you guys want.
Yeah. But no, John, thank you so much. Really, really good to have you on, man. We're definitely going to have you back, especially if we hear some news coming out of Chicago very soon, hopefully, with what's going on with them. And until next time, guys, we got the All-Star break coming up. Trade talks are happening.
January's coming up, so
yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about the next coming weeks. Maybe we'll do a trade episode. We'll just like throw out some trades and throw our cap. Our, I would say, what do you call it? I would throw our front office capology caps on.
We gotta get Sean. We gotta get Sean on that, yo. Sean was throwing out some wild trades last year.
Oh Lord,
we'll get Sean on here as well, who's taking some front office classes with the NBA. So that'll be great to have.
With the GMs.
Yeah, and because Sean's a Miami Heat guy. He thinks everyone is going to Miami. So like, it's insane.
He was the guy suggesting that you guys trade LeBron, right?
Yeah, that's the guy.
I was nodding in my car listening to him.
John agrees. Like, this guy. We need to have both of them on the show and let them have at it.
Yeah, we just need a jam-packed episode, man.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, again, thank you guys. Peace and love. You guys be safe. And until next time, I'll holler at you.
Cool.
Peace.
Have a good night, guys.
Peace.
Good night. Peace.
Laker Nation, man. 6-5.